Now, in order to lift one up on the higher ground, you must be there yourself. We know that. We don't stay clean on yesterday's shower, and what that means is I've got to clean that dirty shit up as I go along. If it's in my thought system, whatever it may be, I need to check that in with 10, and I need to clean that up. I can't stay clean on you. And the other guy said it this way: yesterday's miracle is not sufficient for today. What I did some years ago with Charlie and T-Bone and all them guys, that was wonderful. It carried me a long way, but there's a day coming that ran out. And I needed something new. My mind was telling me, no, you just need to go more meetings, read more books, work with more people, do this, do that, I needed a new experience through the books, what I needed, and I got it, thank God. So this is called working with others, not working on others. I'm working on that, guy. We're working on that. Yeah, good luck with that shit. There's a story about the Messiah and the donkey, and Ashley here is going to probably close her ears because I've told this so many times. She gets tired of hearing it, but here it goes, Ashley. So the Messiah is riding through town on this donkey. Y'all probably heard it too, huh? Yeah, so anyway, they're just fanning him with leaves and palm leaves and all this, and they're fanning him down, and there's a big parade going on, and people are laughing and crying and clapping, and the Messiah's come to town, the message is here. Well, the whole time this damn donkey thinks this is all for him. He's just happy as he can be. See, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like the donkey. I set out to carry the message, it becomes all about me. So the moral of the story is we're really not the message, we're just the asses that get to carry the message like the donkey. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a story that always, whenever I get to step 12, I heard a lady say that at a conference one time over at old granddad over there in Hot Springs, Arkansas. If y'all ever get a chance to come over, that's a good conference. So, but look what it says. Practical experience shows. See, it ain't telling nothing. You don't tell me to tell nobody nothing. It says shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking or whatever else you may be suffering from as intensive work with alcoholics. Now, if you remember way back in the very front of the book, shit, we went over it. See where that was at. It was over in forward to the second edition, XBII, if you'll hold your place right there on 89 and run over there to Roman numeral 27. And it was talking about this is the realization they had. It indicated that strenuous work, one alcoholic with another, was vital to permanent recovery. I mean, they realized that way back before the steps were even written the way they are now. But it says it, talking about intensive work, works when other activities fail. Now, I've prayed like hell. I went to ceremonies. I went to church and confessed in front of the whole crowd. I've been to therapy. I went to meeting. I've done all of this shit. My days still be going crazy. But I could really focus in on another alcoholic and try to help him, and the damn thing happens. All that crap starts going away. It's like, why do I not remember that? So this is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message, not a message or my message, but this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence where others fail. Preachers, ministers, I mean, they all have their place, doctors. But we've walked the trail, so we know what the hell is going on. Remember, they're very ill. Even in AA, I've got that written above the top of that sentence. I got to remember that. If we're in here sober with no solution yet, we're ill. And in 25 years, I'm pretty damn ill, you know what I mean? I mean, golly. So to watch people recover, see, not to tell them how I recover, but to watch them recover, to see them help others and to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends, this is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. This is a direction right here. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. This is what we do in the fellowship. Perhaps you're not acquainted with any drinking who wants to recover. Mike had me to put even in AA above that. Because I know a lot of people that want to be sober, they just don't want to recover, you know. Now, you can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals, or even go to some meetings. They'll be only too glad to assist you. Don't start out as an evangelist or a reformer. Unfortunately, a lot of prejudice, and remember that's an old idea that exists. You'll be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers and doctors are competent. You can learn much from them if you wish. But it happens because of your own experience. You can be uniquely useful. People tell me around here all the time, David, you ain't unique. Ain't nobody unique around here. Ain't what my book says. Right there it says that's bullshit. It says because of your experience, we're talking about your recovered experience, not your sick-ass experience, but your recovered experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. That's unique as far as I'm concerned. So cooperate, never criticize, to be helpful is our only aim. This is the most important paragraph in this entire chapter right here. Trust me. When somebody come up and said, hey, will you sponsor me? I said, damn right, let's go. I did that for years. They never did that in the early days of Alcoholics Anonymous. Never. Not one time. You went up and you went through this, and they made damn sure that was you was ready. So if they put that in the book here, and I'm wanting to follow the rest of the book up to this point and do what it says, I damn well need to be doing what it's saying right here as well. When you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's the newcomer, find out all you can about him. How many times do we sit down and say, all right, where are you from? How long you been there? Where do you live? You married? You got a wife? You got a job? How long you been drinking? How long you been using? When did that start? How did that go? Tell me about your hours of work. If I give my time to you to take you through this work as outlined in the book, how many hours can you give me a week? Tell me about your kids. Tell me about this. What your behavior look like with your wife. How you treat the waitress down at the damn diner. Are you an asshole or do you leave a good tip? Tell me about you. Let me hear it. I never did that. Not one time. I just said, yeah, come on, let's go. No, this is telling me right here, that is exactly, this is exactly what we do with the new man. And look right here, if he doesn't want to stop drinking, or hell, if he don't want to work the steps and recover, I'm not going to waste time with that, trying to persuade him. You may spoil a later opportunity because the day may come that he wants to do it, and because of whatever's happened, then you didn't get that opportunity. So this advice is given for the family also. How many times have we heard in Alcoholics Anonymous, we don't give advice around here? Bullshit. According to that right there, if we're talking about from a recovered state of mind, yes, we do. We damn sure do. This advice is given for his family also. They should be patient, realizing that they're dealing with a sick person. If there's any indication that he wants to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in him, usually his wife. I stay away from that direction in the book. Get an idea of his behavior. I want to know when it started. I want to know what he does. I don't care how much he drank, how much he used. Tell me what happens when you quit. Let me talk about with you whenever you stop. Tell me what starts going on up here. Do you get in self-pity? Do you get angry? Do you get pissed off? Do you get mad? You don't want to come here? You act like you do, but you really don't? Tell me about your behavior. I've never one time sat down with a man prior to agreeing to sponsor him with it and do this until 4 years ago. Nobody ever showed me this, ever. His problems, get an idea of his background. What does that look like for you, man? Tell me about your background. He's going to be happy to talk. If he trusts you, he'll talk. You probably have to shut him up from talking. But here's the key question for me. I want to know the seriousness of his condition. I ain't talking about how much he drank or how much he drug. I'm talking about the seriousness of the condition when he quits doing that shit. Tell me what happens there. Let's see where you are in your head. You want to drink every single day? What about every minute? You want to act out? What do you do whenever you want to act out? Do you try to fight it off by yourself? Do you go to meetings to try to make it go away? What do you do? And the last question here is his religious leanings. I want to know what you faith. What's your faith tradition? I don't care what it is. Whatever it is, that's your business, not mine. But I want to know. Because then I know. If he's a Christian, then I'm going to give him parables from the other book that I read and study and know how to read now, because now I know how to read this book. If he's Buddhist, I know a little bit about Buddhism. I sponsor Buddhist monks. I can sit and meditate with him. I want to be in on your religion with you, no matter what that religion is. I might not agree with all of it, but there's some stuff out of it I can use. You can bet your ass on that. And I'm not going to close my mind just because you're one faith or the other. At the end of all of this, I tell him this. I'm not asking you all this to get in your business because I really don't care. Look at this sentence. I need this information to put myself in your place to see how I would like for you to approach me if the tables were turned around. If you were going to sponsor me, I would want you to know everything there is to know about me. So if I'm going to sponsor you, I've got to know everything there is about you. So Now, when he's answering all them questions that I'm asking him down through there on page 90, he's telling me how to sponsor him right there. I know. You can ask. There's a few people here on Zoom today, a few of these ladies, and, you know, I talked to one who was in a very bad way. We talked about being phony versus being real. And she learned how to be real in prayer. We talked about it some yesterday. Sometimes it's wise to wait until he goes on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless he's in dangerous physical condition, it's better to risk it. Don't deal with him when he's very drunk. Unless he's ugly and the family needs your help. I try to stay out of all of that. Wait for the end of his career, at least to lucid interval. Then let the family or friend ask him if he wants to quit for good and if he go to any extreme to do so. Remember, that was one of the questions on page 58 that we looked at. If you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. If he says yes, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered, not sober, not just sober. I'm sober for these many years, okay? Tell me how you recovered from self. Oh, well, you know, no, I ain't looking for nobody like that. You should be described to him as one of a fellowship who has part of their own recovery. Not the only part, but part of their own recovery. Try to help others and be glad to talk to him if he cares to see you. Remember, way back in the doctor's opinion. And page XXB 25. Very first page is the doctor's opinion. Second full paragraph there. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas, talking about Bill Wilson, concerning the possible means of recovery as part of his rehabilitation. I think when we're sober for a long time, we think that's the only part. Or we either go to meetings and think that's the only part. No, there's three parts around that circle, not just one. So, if he does not want to see you, never force yourself upon him. I've had guys call him, oh man, what did I do wrong? What did I say, man? You know, I don't do any of that. It's just, you know, and I always text him back. I wish you the best. We was talking about a little brother from Abilene there just a little bit ago. And, you know, we got to the second step, and it requires action. We seen that yesterday. He did real good. Most of them do real good as long as you're reading along, going along, all this good information to get to the action part, but you don't hear anything. Stop seeing 10 steps come through. Nightly, slow down. I just text him once and say, hey, man, you know, no hard feelings, but let me know where you at. Because if not, I'm going to move on with somebody else. He's like, man, I can't do what you're asking me to do. That's okay. Best wishes. And I left it at that. And the reason I done that is because what it talked about back up there, you may spoil a later opportunity to be a, you know, if I'd have been like, well, that's bullshit. I've given you all this time. I spent all this time with you every day, you know. If I would have came at it like that, you know, even if he would have got to the point to where he wanted to do something different with what he wouldn't come back, you know. So I want to do what the book says to do. I don't want to do that. I don't want to force myself upon nobody. Neither should the family hysterical believe with him to do anything. I promise you, let him go. Let him get his ass whooped emotionally with whatever's going on. He'll come back. People used to say, you talk about God in here, you know, you run the newcomer off, and then there'd be another old timer say, yeah, but whiskey will bring him back. Don't worry, no worries. And it's true, you know. So you might place the book where you can see it at the interval. There's no specific rule can be given. The family must decide. But urge him not to be over anxious for that, because it might spoil matters. So let's drop down to the bottom of 91 there to the last sentence. When he sees you know all about the drinking game. Now notice how he says not a recovery game. Commence to describe yourself as an alcoholic. I don't mean I'm going to sit there and beat him to death with my damn drunk-a-log. I'm just going to describe to him what I am as an alcoholic. Not that I drink so much whiskey that I just pass out in the damn bathroom. I'm pissing in the water fountain out there at the mall where you ought to be flipping coins in and stuff. We ain't talking about that. You know what I'm saying? So, but this is what I need to do on page 92. Paragraph. Tell him how baffled you were. Not when I was drinking. Hell, when I was sober. You know what I mean? And that's what makes the alcoholic. How you learned that you were sick. Not that I am sick now, but I was sick then. Give him account of your struggles you made to stop. Show him the mental twist which leads to the first drink of spree. Now, if you remember when we went through more about alcoholism, they did that pretty descriptively. That's the same thing we're going to do here. Notice the next sentence. We suggest that you do this as it was done in the chapter on alcoholism, chapter 3. If he is an alcoholic, he will understand you at once, and he'll match his mental consistencies with some of your own. I'm not asking him about his drinking at this point. I'm telling him about me as an alcoholic. If you're satisfied that he's a real alcoholic, begin to dwell on the hopeless feature of the malady. That's step 1. Remember, we talked about the allergy, the obsession, the spiritual malady. We went in depth with that. Show him from your own experience. In other words, sit down with this book and show that man instead of telling him, well, here's what you're going to have to do. Get your ass over here and go do that and go do that. Now, that worked for me. I needed that in the beginning. Trust me, I needed that. But my book's saying you're going to have more success if you will show him through your own experience how the queer mental conditions surrounding that first drink prevents normal functioning of the willpower. Now, don't at this stage refer to the book unless he has seen it. Well, most people that I work with by this time has already seen it. But also that he wishes to discuss it. Be careful not to brand him as an alcoholic. That's something that he's going to have to do for himself. Let him draw his own conclusion. Remember in Fred's story? They went to the hospital and they seen him. He just thought he was having a bad case of juice. Hell, they just left him alone. In a short time, he came back. And that's kind of what happens here, you know. If he sticks to the idea, key word, remember self is made up of ideas, concepts, beliefs, attitudes, and different actions. That he can still control his drinking. Remember, that's kind of how Bill was in his story. Remember, he said, in those periods of sobriety renewed my wife's hope, but I still thought that I could control my drinking. Tell him that he possibly can. I don't argue that with him. No, man, you ought to know better by now. As many times you had your butt kicked over that. No, I don't do all that. I just say, yeah, man, yeah. If you think you can drink or act out or whatever it is you do, go and get you some more. I had somebody tell me, hey, don't ever tell nobody that. Hey, why you keep saying that? Because I read it in the damn book. That's why I keep saying it. And I'm going to keep saying it too, because it's the truth. If somebody would have tried to do that shit to me, I wouldn't be here today. T-Bone told me a long time ago, David, he said, I'd rather come visit your damn grave is to worry about your damn feelings. And y'all know him. Some of y'all know him. That's how he was. He was like, I don't give a damn about your feelings. And he did. But the book says, insist that if he's severely afflicted, that's step 1. There may be little chance that he can recover by himself. So continue to speak of alcoholism as an illness, a fatal malady, not a spiritual malady, a fatal malady. Talk about the conditions of body and mind. Let's talk about the allergy. Let's talk about what happens whenever I put alcohol inside my body. I can sit here and wash my hands in liquor this morning at almost 29 years. They ain't going to hurt me at all. But what happens if I take a drink? You think I'm going to be in Oklahoma tonight at 6 o'clock? Hell no. I'm going to be in Mexico. I'm going to be having some fun, by God, if I get to make it that far without going to jail. It's like, so I want to talk about that experience of the body and mind. Not just body, but the mind, which accompanies it. I mean, all this time I'm talking to this man about step 1. Now, remember, I ain't even agreed to sponsor him yet. That doesn't come until we get over here to page 96. So the first, from 89 to 96, this is all my first visit. Now, I'm not sitting down reading all this sentence by sentence like we're doing here, but I'm picked this out enough by now that I know how to talk to this man all the way through before I agree to sponsor him. And I've had some, I would ask him that question there on page 90. I work with a lot of different people that are addicted with sex now. I ask him, do you absolutely want to quit? For sure. For damn sure. You better be sure. Are you sure? And if he hesitates even for a couple of minutes, it's like, okay, it's going to be a waste of time. And it's, I don't know about you, but my time's important. I used to think it wasn't, but it is. And so, bottom part, but you talked to him about the hopelessness. Where were we at there? Continue to speak of alcoholism, a fatal illness, conditions of mind and body. Keep his attention focused mainly on your personal experience. Explain that many are doomed who never realize their predicament. Doctors are rightly loath to tell alcoholic patient the whole story unless it will serve some good purpose. But you talk to him about the hopelessness of alcoholism, which is step one, because you offer a solution, which is step two. You will soon have your friend admitting he has many, if not all, the traits of an alcoholic. If his own doctor is willing to tell him he's an alcoholic, so much the better. Even though your protege might have not entirely admitted his condition, he's become very curious to know how you got well. Let him ask you that question if he will. Tell him exactly what happened to you. And we ain't talking about when you was out there drinking. We're talking about when we sat inside these rooms and got our ass kicked emotionally to the point to where we had to get up and do something. Stress the spiritual feature freely. Don't talk about God, David. You run off the newcomer. That old timer said, whiskey will bring them back. Don't worry. Keep talking about God, boy. Let's talk about your experience with God, not your idea about God. Stress that spiritual feature freely. If the man be an agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic. He does not have to agree with your conception of God. Hell, I'll make that clear way before we ever get to this page. He can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. But the main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself, step 2, and that he live by spiritual principles, steps 3 through 12. Well, let's jump over to 94. Remember that it's more about him than it is about us in this, what we call the interview process of this. Here it says, outline the program of action. That's what they did for Fred, remember, back in his story? We're talking about steps 4 through 9 here. Explain how you made a self-appraisal. That's step 4. If I can't explain that to a man, I don't need to be sponsored. How you straightened out your past, 8 and 9. Not only back when you was drinking, but since you've been in these rooms. And why you're now endeavoring to be helpful to him, step 12. It's important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on plays a vital part in your own recovery. That's the only damn reason I'm doing it. Actually, he may be helping you more than you're helping him. I'll guarantee that's the case, or I wouldn't keep doing it after all these years. Make it plain that he's under no obligation to you and that you hope that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. Remember what Ebby made Bill agree to. Where was that? On page 13 back there. Yeah, whenever he said, where was that? Oh, page 14, bottom paragraph. My friend had emphasized the absolute necessity of demonstrating these principles in all of my affairs, and particularly it was imperative to work with others as he had worked with me. And that's the same thing. That's the only thing I ask of a man that I'm working with. Do it exactly the way I did it with you. And I have people on here that have done that. And there's a lot of people starting to recover, not just get sober. Suggests how important. He placed the welfare of other people ahead of his own. That's from day one. Where the hell did our fellowship get so far off of the track with this? Let us love you until you can love you. You're the most important person in your life. You put your name at the top of the amends list. Mike said, you put your name at the top of that amends list, I'll run your ass off today. He said, you made amends to you when you gave your will and life to God. Did you do that with your heart? I did. He said, you made amends to you right there. Our constant thought of others. It's not about self-love. It's not about self-forgiveness. It's not about all that bullshit that we hear around here. It's none of that. Show him how important it is that he placed the welfare ahead of his own. If I'm not mistaken, back here on page 20 in this book, we were told that way back there. If you hold your place right there and you look at the bottom of 19, top of 20, it says most of us sense the real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints and respect for their opinion, our attitude which makes us so useful to others. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend upon our constant thought of others. Don't say shit about me there and how we may help meet their needs. Man, but when I hear that meeting after meeting after meeting, hell, that's what I believe. I don't read the book. And I've told you, I've had some guys that sponsor me that's really kicked my tail over stuff like that. People say, how you know that shit? Because I constantly read the book. After 29 years, you still read that book every day. I have not missed reading this book a day since I learned how important it was to live my life by it. Now, I haven't always lived my life by it until like the last 4 years, but, you know, I've always been in the book. Make it clear he's under no pressure and that he needn't see you again if he doesn't want to. You shouldn't be offended if he wants to call it off, because really he's helped you more than you've helped him. If your talk has been sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, see, that's where I always went wrong. Because that's how I was taught. Then perhaps you made a plan. I'm going to do that for people I sponsor. Don't get me wrong. You can ask Ms. Ashley on there. I'm going to do that. And Beth, I'm going to do that. But if this is a brand new man, I don't want to do that to him. You know? Maybe you've disturbed him about the question of alcoholism. This is all to the good. Because the more hopeless he feels, the better. Remember that gift of desperation we talked about in here? Yeah, that's a good thing. Trust me. Might not seem so good for them, but we know it's a damn good thing if we could just keep them there. You know what I mean? So he will be more likely to follow your suggestions. So he may give reasons why he need not follow all the program. I've heard all kinds of bullshit. He may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning, and that's step 4, which requires discussion with other people. That's step 5. Don't contradict such views. Tell him you once felt as he does. You doubt whether you'd have made much progress had you not taken action. Remember, that's steps 4 through 9. On your first visit. See, we're still on the first visit. We ain't even got out of that visit yet. Tell him about the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. If he shows you interest, lend him your copy of the book, and that's one direction I damn sure don't follow. I will buy you a book. I will give you another book that I might have, but you're not getting my book. That's my book. I'm going to practice selfishness like that. Well, now wait a minute. Jeff made me agree if I die that he gets this book. So no one's ever asked me that question. So if something happens to me down here, guys, this goes to Jeff. So unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, and you can probably bet your ass he does, don't wear out your welcome. Give him a chance to think it over. This is an important direction right here. If you do say, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Oh, hell, I don't like that. I don't like that direction, do you? You ever turn loose a drunk? Tell him, go ahead and steer the conversation in any direction you like. Well, you might as well pull up a chair and some coffee and some smoke, because you're going to be there for a while. Because he's going to steer it in all kinds of damn different directions. You know what I mean? So sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. Boy, I made a huge mistake with this. Had a guy come in on fire, and I mean, running through him, and I'm throwing it at him hard like we do. There's been more than one man, but the most recent one was a doctor out of the UK. Good dude, good young dude, man, love him. Neural brain surgeon. I like working with those kind of guys, man. They're smart as hell, but they're dumb as a box of rocks. You know what I mean? And it's like, I mean, he's on fire. I mean, I read him through the first 3 chapters. He absolutely knew. He could ask any question I gave him. I'm not realizing this son bitch is super smart. That's why he's doing that. He's not catching. I'm like, yeah, we got one here. And we're going and going and going and going, and get him up to inventory. He whizzes through inventory. Take him through step 5. He's doing well. Get him through 6, 7, 8. Get him in 9. Starts making these amends. He's practicing 10, 11 the way I'm asking him to. Hell, I'm ready to have him speak, all this stuff, and boom, he falls out. I'm like, come on, dude, let's read the back chapters of the book. Because, see, when I work with a man, I'll read all the way to 164 with him, breaking it down the way we do here. See, we don't stop here. Only on the studies like this we have to stop here. And he was like, no, I think I'm going to live my life. I'm going to go back to the hospital. I'm going to, you know, it's time for me to go. I've been off work 3 months. And I'm like, dude, who are you working with? I ain't working with nobody yet, but I will. I got plenty of opportunity. And sure enough, man, when a short time he fell out, and that dude's never been able to get back. Man, he has tried and tried and tried and tried, and he just cannot get back. And man, and it's a shame, because he's a hell of a dude, and I like him, and I pray for him, because he's really a good dude. So this direction applies to that. The new man may be anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. Not always, but sometimes. And in this case, it was. If he has trouble later, he's likely to say you rushed him. You'll be most successful. Anytime it tells me I'm going to be most successful with working with somebody, I damn sure want to pay attention to what it's about to tell me. You'll be most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit passion or crusade or reform. Never talk down to an alcoholic from a moral or a spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kid of spiritual tools for his inspection. Here's step 3, dude. Here's the exercises we do in 2. Here's what we do in 3. Here's where we're at in inventory. This is what that looks like. This is the tools. You need these tools: prayer and meditation, self-examination. Show him. Important I look at them 2 words and not interpret that as tell him. Show him how they work for you. Take a look at my inventory today, dude. I'm not ashamed of that. Look at it all you want. There's a day ain't nobody gonna see that. Hell, I burn it up. I told you about that. Big Indian about tore me down over that, man. I don't burn up them inventories no more until I'm told to. You know what I mean, nephew? So tell him that if he wants to get well, that you'll do anything to help, offering friendship and fellowship. If he's not interested in your solution, he only expects you to act as a banker or for his financial difficulty or a nurse for his sprees. You might have to drop him till he changes his mind about that. Trust me, we don't have to change his mind. Booze, drugs, lust, whatever it is, that's going to change his mind for him. And he might do that after he gets hurt some more. So if he's sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read the book in the interval. See, we don't do that. Mike read the book with me. That's the way I do with others. I don't sit down and tell them, go read this, come back to see me. I used to do that because that's how I was taught. But today I sit down and read the book with him because that's what he did with me after all them years. Remember me telling you, hell, I'd worked with Charlie, I'd worked with all these guys. What the hell could he possibly read to me through this book? Oh my God, there was so much that I'd missed there. It was unreal. After that, he must decide for himself whether he wants to go on. Shouldn't be pushed or prodded by you, his wife, or his friend. Very important here. If he has to find God, the desire must come from within, not from the group, not from the fellowship, not from his sponsor. If he is to find God, by God, the desire must come from within, period. And if you remember on page 55, it says we found the great reality deep down within. That we had to move some of the shit out of the way, but we had to do that. If he thinks he can do the job in some other way, celebrate recovery, church, whatever it may be, therapy, psychiatry, counseling, Buddhism, sweat lodging, whatever it is, if he thinks he can do the job in some other way, or he prefers some other spiritual approach, encourage him to follow his own conscience. We have no monopoly on God. We merely have an approach that has worked for us. We point out that we alcoholics have much in common. You'd like to let it go at that. In any case, be friendly and let it go at that. And I think that's the key to it. So, top of 96. Don't be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. Search out another alcoholic. Try again. You hear that they'll say about the sex addict, had dyslexic and they were told to read 69 and they read 96. I've said this in some damn sex meetings and they took it out of my recording. They said, I don't know, we're sensitive. We don't like hearing stuff. I'm like, booze. So anyway, search out another alcoholic, try again. You're sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you are. See, alcoholics laugh about that shit. We laugh about that stuff. Sex addicts, oh, hell no, that's bullshit. I can't do that. Huh? We find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not work with you. We talked about that a little bit earlier up here at the table. There's the answer to that question for my brother back there in the back. We find it a waste of time to chase a man who cannot or will not work with you. If you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover by himself. It doesn't say get sober by himself. We're talking about recover after he's been here for a little bit. To spend too much time on any one situation is to deny some other alcoholic opportunity to live. You see, I'm accountable. You're accountable to yourself for your own values, not me. I'm accountable to me for my values, not you. That's between me and my sponsor, and that's between me and you guys. That's not between me and everybody else. So one of our fellowship failed entirely with the first half dozen prospects. He often says that he continued to work on him. He might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chance. That ends the first visit. People say, how the hell do you know that? Well, read the next sentence. Suppose now you're making a second visit. That's how I know that. Read the damn book, you know. It's pretty simple. So all of that, from that interview on 90 all the way over to here, I picked this stuff out and I compile it into just a short bullet point of how I talk to a man prior to saying, okay, yeah, I'll sponsor you. Because intuitively, I'm probably going to know after all that whether or not he's ready to do this or not. And if he's not, it's okay. I mean, I ain't going to beat him down over it and all that. I'm just going to say, all right, man, you know, I think it'd be better if I've got some other people I can refer you to, man. I'd like for you to check them out. And that's worked pretty well. So suppose now you're making the second visit to a man. He's read the volume, says he's prepared to go through the 12 steps of the program of recovery. Having had the experience yourself of the 12 steps of the program of recovery as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, then you can give him much practical advice. What do we hear in AA? We don't give advice around here. Bullshit. Yeah, we do. From a recovered state of mind, we damn sure do. Let him know you're available if he wishes to make a decision. Step 3. Tell you his story. Steps 4 and 5. But do not insist if he prefers to consult someone else. It's spiritual arrogance for me to demand that they do this with me. That's crazy. I don't do that. You know, if you want to find another sponsor, you want to go another way, man, feel free to do that. I don't care. He may be broken homeless. You might try to help him out by getting a job or giving him a little financial assistance, but don't deprive your family or creditors of money they should have. Perhaps you'll want to take the man into your home for a few days, but be sure you use discretion. Make sure he'll be welcomed by your family and that he's not trying to impose upon you for money or connections or shelter. It says if you do that, you're only going to harm you. Let's go to the second to the last paragraph on 95. AA is not a place I go today. AA is a place I live. I don't live out in the world and visit AA. I live in AA and I visit the world. And I found out it's a hell of a lot better if I do that. It says, we seldom, let's pick it up second to last paragraph. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for a long time. It's not good for him. And it sometimes creates serious complications in the family. I got story after story I can throw out about that. So an alcoholic does not respond, there's no reason why you should neglect his family. Hell, invite them to your functions. He wants to stay home and get drunk, act a fool, go ahead. Wife and kids, come on. You know, we're having a picnic down here. We're having a get-together, whatever it is. Family should be offered your way of life. And that is this work as outlined in the book. Should they accept spiritual principles, there's a much better chance that the head of the family will recover, and even though he continues to drink, act out, whatever it is, the family will find life more bearable. For the alcoholic who is willing and able to get well, little charity in the ordinary sense of the word is needed or wanted. The men that cry for money and shelter before conquering alcohol are on the wrong track. People tell me, David, I got to get a job. I got to get back to work. I've been off 3 months. What have you been doing in 3 months you've been off? I've been drunk. Well, you didn't too much give a shit about work then. How come it's so important now? Oh, I see. You're sober. You got to hurry up and get back to work, right? I promise you, you don't do this, you ain't going to have a job to worry about no more. So, and tell me that too. I can't make that meeting tonight. I need to be home with my family. Well, you was out acting out all that time. Where was the family when all that was going on? I don't buy into that shit. I just don't. But that's just me. Page 98. It is not the matter of giving that is in question, but when and how to give. That often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God, and that's what happens. He clamors for this or that, claiming he can't master alcohol until his material needs are met and cared for. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place the dependence upon other people ahead of the dependence upon God, and that's even inside of the meeting. Just don't drink, make meetings, bullshit. Good luck with that. If you're an alcoholic like I am, you'll learn pretty damn quick. And it says as long as he placed the dependence upon other people ahead of the dependence of God, not on my sponsor, not on meetings, not on her, not on any of that, up on God, period. You know, this isn't based on circumstance. This is based on spirit. It keeps bringing us back to spirit, 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 spirit. And here it is, burn into the consciousness of every man that he can get well. People say, we don't get well around here. Oh, I guess you got well, did you? Damn right I got well. I read the fucking book and did what it told me to do, and by God, I got well. How about you? Yeah, I got well. Burn that into the consciousness of every man that he can get well, regardless of anyone, even me. The only condition, and there is one, that he trusts God and clean house. Well, now the domestic problem. Hell, the book just don't ever quit, does it? Now the domestic problem. There may be divorce, separation, or just strained relations. When the prospect has made such reparation, he can to his family and thoroughly explain to them the new principles which he is living. He should proceed to put those principles into action at home. My sponsor told me, David, you take care of what's under your roof, and I promise you the rest of the world's going to be okay. They can do without you. Make sure that you get what's under your roof taken care of. Like I was telling you about, Miss Patty loved to have Christmas lights all over that house. I got other shit to do. I don't want to do no Christmas lights. I don't want to climb up that ladder and do all that. So I hired an old boy. He come out, little bitty guy, man. He jumped, climb up there, he's gone. And he had it all done. Christmas time, she was like, call him back, take him out. No, we ain't taking him down. She's like, what the hell you mean? Yeah, we ain't taking him down. I left him up there for 2 years. Sorry. Just wouldn't even, and that's what it's saying, take care of what's under your roof, man. Today I get up there and do it. At first I did it just because, it was a pretty good idea. Now it's not so bad, I get to holler at the neighbors and they can't even see where I'm at. I'm way up on that damn house, I often think when I'm up there, man, if I had a gun, I could snipe them. And so you can have a good time up there, trust me, So when your prospects made such reparations as you can, we read that. So through his family be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. I always want to point out what they've done. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. We know about the plague, right? COVID and shit like, we know what the plague does. It kills your ass. And that's what it will do here. We left off on, where was it? Page 99 there, I guess. And we're going to drop down to the second to the last paragraph where it says, if there be divorce or separation. This is something we see quite a bit in our fellowship, and sometimes we try to give advice here that we don't really have. I've never understood this. I come into an AA meeting and seek advice on relationships from people who had failed at relationships and are still failing in their relationships their whole damn life. What the hell would drive me to do that? I think we've seen it in the book, right? So I know a lot of people that have good marriages in Alcoholics Anonymous and good recovery, and it's a good thing, but more often than not, this seems to be the problem. If there be divorce or separation, there should be no undue haste for the couple to get together. The man should be sure of his recovery. I think that's probably the guiding sentence right here. The wife should fully understand his new life. If their old relationship is to be resumed, it must be on a better basis since the former did not work. And this means a new attitude and spirit all around. See how he just keeps coming back to spirit, back to spirit, back to spirit. Because if we're not connected to that, our thoughts are going somewhere else. Sometimes it's the best interest of all concerned that the couple remain apart. But obviously no rule can be laid down here. I hear people giving each other advice in AA about this all the time. You need to leave that guy. You need to do this. You need to do that. I just tell the people I work with, man, just work the steps, have a spiritual experience, and you're going to know what to do. God will guide you in that area. I don't need to be one to tell you that. I promise you, I ain't had any good relationships until the last one. So, and hell, I even screwed that up. So it's like, you don't want my advice. Let's just go through the book and have an experience. Sometimes it's the best interest of all concerned that, obviously no rule can be laid down. Let the alcoholic continue to work his program day by day. Another continuing guiding sentence in this. When the time for living has come together, it will be apparent by both parties, not by me, not by my sponsor, not by their sponsor, not by God. It keeps going back to spirit, back to spirit. You know, is it a lesson or is it a blessing? Sometimes, I need a damn lesson more than I need a blessing. I didn't realize that. I know that from working with other alcoholics too. Does he need relief or does he need another lesson? Hell, that's not my choice to make. My deal is to take them through the process of the work so that they can recover. So let no alcoholic say he cannot recover unless he has his family back. It just isn't so. In some cases, the wife will never come back for one reason or another. Had a young guy there in Oklahoma. I worked with him for a little while, got him to inventory. He was almost getting done. His wife had left him because of his drinking and his drugging and the craziness that comes along with all of that. And about that time, he was almost done with his inventory, and she decided she wanted a divorce. And man, it just broke his heart. He was tore up, he was resentful. And I understood. I just told him, dude, don't stop. If you stop right here, it's going to be it's going to be in a bad way. And he just couldn't do it. He's like, man, that's the only reason I come here. And I said, yeah, you didn't tell me that when we started, did you? And I asked you that question. So you lied to me, didn't you? And he said, I did. And I said, man, you're going to need to find somebody else to work with. And, he went his own way, and I never heard from him again. But I do know that he ended up after a while drinking again. So don't let anybody tell you can't recover unless they get their family back. That ain't true. Remind us the prospect of his recovery is not dependent upon people. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. See how this chapter just keeps coming back to that. Everything outside of this stuff is worldly noise. It's just worldly noise in my head and in everybody else's head. We've seen men get well. There it is again. We don't get well around here. Oh, you got well, did you? Yeah, I did. I sure did. We've seen men get well whose family who have not returned at all, and we've seen others slip when the family come back too soon. Remember, it's not dependent upon circumstances. It's dependent upon my spiritual condition. That's what everything depends upon. Both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. That's a promise. When we look back, we realize that the things that came to us, people say, how do I know what God's will for me is? Because it's things that come to me. It's not things that I go plan and promote and all this. See, for all them years, I promoted a lot of me. I don't do that anymore. When things come to me, when people approach me, then I'm pretty sure the Spirit had something to do with that. It didn't come from me. So as we look back, we realize that the things that came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands was better than anything that we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, not my sponsor, not this. I need to do what he says, but yeah, my real reliance must be right here. And you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. I did not think that was possible. I just thought this was good reading. So when working with a man and his family, you should take care not to participate in his quarrels. No matter who's upset, we're wrong. We're the one in the wrong. It teaches us that here. Let's skip that paragraph, go to the next one. If you've been successful in solving your own domestic problem, tell the newcomer's family how that was accomplished. In this way, you can set them on the right track without becoming critical of them. The story of how you and your wife settled your difficulty is worth any amount of criticism. And boy, do I have a story I could share there. Oh, my God. All day long. We could take the rest of the day. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. So I didn't have her permission. Assuming we are spiritually fit. Now, I assume a lot of things, and I need to be in the right place of mind if I'm going to assume this. We can do all sorts of things that alcoholics are not supposed to do. People have said we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have in the home. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures. I see this a lot with sex addicts. You can't even go to the movie and watch it. Bull crap. No. Which, friends must hide their bottles. If we go to their house, we mustn't think or be reminded about alcohol. But look what our book says. Our experience shows that is not necessarily so. Watch how he comes back to spirit again. God, he's done it every page. We meet these conditions every day. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something wrong with his spiritual status. It's not that he missed too many meetings. It's probably a good idea he's here. I'm not saying that. But he always comes back to spirit. Always, always, always. So let's drop to the last paragraph. So our rule. There are no rules in AA, right? We've looked at a bunch of them the last couple of days. Here's another one. So our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. This includes bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, weddings, even plain, ordinary whoopee parties, Netflix for some of us, right? To a person who has had experience with an alcoholic, this may seem like a tempting providence, but it isn't. You'll note that we've made an important qualification. Therefore, ask yourself on each occasion, have I had any good business or personal reason for going to this place? Hell, I never done that. I just went. It's like, I'm sober now. I can do what I want. Am I expecting to steal a little vicarious pleasure from it? Well, let's go to page 102, and we're going to drop down to the second to the last paragraph on this. Your job. Remember in the third step, it talked about us having a new employer. And remember on page 77, it talked about my real purpose. Now, it's going to talk about my job. I got a job here. This ain't work. Yeah, it is. If you do it the way we do it, it is. Your job now is to be at the place to where you can be of maximum helpfulness to others. Remember page 77, we're to fit ourselves to be that way. Never hesitate to go anywhere if you can be helpful. And I've ended up in some of the craziest places sober that I wouldn't have. I had to have a gun to hang out with whenever I was drinking. You should not hesitate to visit the most sordid spot on earth on such an errand. Keep on the firing line with these motives, and God will keep you unharmed. Notice how he keeps coming back to spirit, back to spirit, back to spirit. We're never getting away from that. If you ever get away from that, you go back to self, and self is going to guide and direct you. Many of us keep liquor in our homes. We often need it to carry green recruits through severe hangovers. Now, for the sex addict, we don't keep porn laying around just in case one of them were to show up. We can go over that with them a little bit, and everything will be all right after a while. This does not apply to you, by the way. There are a couple of you there. This applies to us over here on this side, and you, Miss Lee. Keep liquor in our homes. We often need it to carry green recruits through a severe hangover. Some of us still serve it to our friends, provided they're not alcoholic. Some of us think we should not serve liquor at all. That's probably more of a good idea than a thought. We never argue this question. We feel that each family, in the light of their own circumstances, ought to decide for themselves. We're careful to never show intolerance or hatred of a drinking as an institution. Experience shows that attitude is not helpful to anyone. My cousin sobered up, the one I told you he died at 47 years old with liver cancer. He sobered up and he wanted to burn down every liquor store in Pittsburgh County. I'm like, why? I don't want to know that. So let's go to page. I ain't reading page 103. I don't want to hear shit about 103. Okay, man. But it just shows. I mean, that's not helpful to no one. So every new alcoholic looks for this spirit among us and is immensely relieved when he finds that we're not witch burners. Spirit of intolerance might repel alcoholics whose lives could have been saved had it not been for such stupidity. And that's strong words, but it's true. We would not even do the cause of temperate drinking any good, for not one drinker in 1,000 likes to be told anything about alcohol by one who hates it. I don't know about you, but alcohol saved my life. It brought me here. It drove me here. And the things that happened to me in 2019, I used to hate that, but today I don't, and me and Miss Patty talk about it often. Today we're grateful because that's the greatest thing that happened. It drove me to a deeper place, and it made me reach for something that I didn't have. And I had an experience that changed my life completely. Someday we hope that Alcoholics Anonymous will help the public to better realization of the gravity of the alcoholic problem. And here it is again. We're going to be of little use if our attitude is one of bitterness or hostility. Drinkers will not stand for it. After all, our problems were of our own making. Bottles were only a symbol. Remember page 64, drinking, is only a symbol. Besides, we've stopped fighting anything or anyone, even the insanity in my head. The book says we have to. So that concludes the study. And, man, I'm so grateful that I got the chance. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me talk as much as I'm tired of talking. So if we have any questions or anything like that, I think we can take some time and do that.
This concludes David's share. but we encourage you to keep listening as he answers questions from the group and shares additional experience, strength, and hope.
Okay, on page 91, it states, see your man alone if possible, which I have done. I have no problem doing, but I had some old timers in our group that argued with me, telling me you should never, ever go alone. So my question is, do I go alone? Do I not go alone? Do I carry my gun?
Yes, carry your gun. No.
I do.
My experience with that is intuitively that we know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. And I'm going to look at the situation, and if there's a couple of crazies over there or something like that, being a woman, it would not be a good idea to go along. But if it's somebody that you could help, a mild manner, I would always talk to your sponsor first and get her take on it. So everything that we've read here in the book tells us if we go along these lines, God is going to keep us unharmed. We read that over and over in here. And that's my experience on that. It keeps coming back to spirit. It depends on where I'm at. Sometimes I can go to try to help somebody and really not be spiritually connected. But if I meet up with my sponsor, I do the third step prayer. We take a look at whatever, and I follow their direction. And absolutely, I go alone too. I've went alone many times, and I will continue to do that. So a lot of things I hear in the fellowship, I run by my sponsor, especially if they got experience, and I know yours does. So I would absolutely just follow her advice and do what this book says. You'll be all right, for sure.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Back on page 83, you had mentioned that there were 12 prayers, 12 meditations, and 12 visions. And I think you pointed out the first one, and I was wondering if you would mind going through some of those.
Well, that was on yesterday's question docket. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I know you've asked this question many times. So that was one. Whenever you get over to page 84, it starts talking about this thought brings us to step 10. It talks about we continue to watch. There's our vision. And that's also our next function is growing effectiveness and understanding. That's a meditation. As you go through the 5 principles there, one of them is, we ask God, it wants to remove it. There's your prayer. And as you move on over to page 85, it says, we react sanely and normally. We find this has happened automatically. We will see. There's your vision. That this new attitude has been given you without any effort on your part. We've been placed in a neutrality, safe and protected. Instead, the problem's been removed. It don't exist. And then, as you move on down through that page, it also talks about, how can I best serve thee? That's a prayer. Thy will, not mine, be done. That's a vision. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. That's an action. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. Much has been already said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. That's a vision for me now. If I've carefully followed direction, I've begun to sense the flow of his spirit into me. I meditate on that. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. So there's my prayer, there's my meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter. I know you're probably going to be mad I didn't tell you this before, right? I know you've asked me many times, but here it is. So if we have the proper attitude and work at it, it'd be easy to be vague. We believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. So our meditation falls into the nightly review. One of those things is we ask for forgiveness down toward the bottom of that review. That's a prayer. And you can just pick them out as you go along. But from 84 to 88, there's 12 of them: visions, meditations, and prayers. I mean, we could keep hammering them out, but look at the bottom of 86 there, and thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We might be able not determine which course to take. I need to meditate here. Here's my prayer. I need to ask God. Intuitive thought or a decision. There's my vision. relax, take it easy, don't struggle. Just on and on and on. So it's all through here.
So I missed it yesterday, on 84 when the thought bridge was discussed, when you had to circle 5 words, I started to write them off to the side what 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were.
Mhm.
I got 1, 2, and 3 were watch, ask, discuss. What? I mean, I circled the words, but I have part of that I have that whole paragraph underlined also, so I'm like,
Okay.
I can't even tell what I have circled.
Okay. Her question was on the 5 things on page 84 that we do on the daily. We read through it and then I broke them down and I said, here are the 5 things it's asking us to do. She got 3 of them. She was really busy with service work. First, I want to thank you, Miss Dawn, for all of your service here. Wow, it's huge, like always. It's always been that way. So, yes, ma'am. The first thing it says is to watch. The next thing it says to do is ask. The third thing it says to do is discuss. The fourth thing says make amends, or I call apologize, just to keep it simple. And the last thing is to turn our thoughts. So that's really what it's asking me to do daily. Watch, ask, discuss, apologize if I need to, turn my thoughts. Guys, I just want to thank you guys again here at the Solutions Group so much for asking me to come down and do this. Man, I enjoy doing these anytime I ever get a chance. There's no place I'd rather done one than right here with you guys. So thanks so much, Chantel, so much for your service. Rick, thank you for what you do, buddy. Thank you for taking care of me there. And all of you, thank you for coming out.